Hello and welcome to Trojan Talk. I'm your host, Aaron Taylor. With me today is Riley Jacks with Trojan Outreach, here to talk about Domestic Violence Awareness Month here on campus. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
And we're talking about domestic violence awareness, and Trojan Outreach is a student organization here that kind of helps spread information about health awareness issues on campus and stuff that applies to college students. But a lot of people may think domestic violence and not normally associate it with college students. So why is it important to bring the topic of domestic violence up to college students? Most people think it's husband, wives, things like that.
Yeah, so actually domestic violence encompasses a lot more than just a husband and wife or even just physical violence. A domestic violence can occur within roommates, friendships, whatever it may be, and it's not always just physical. It can be an emotional, psychological, financial, and sometimes the patterns are right in front of you and you might not even see them.
And that's one of those things that college students, it's there, but they may not know, hence the reason why this is an opportunity to provide a number of different events on campus to help let them know what this might be, right?
Absolutely. Definitely. We're going to have 3 different events just kind of focused in on interpersonal violence and its realities because, like you said, it is an issue on college campuses, but a lot of times students don't realize it. So we're really trying to raise awareness.
But then again, you mentioned there are different types of domestic violence, but then there may be some situations, especially in college students, where there is the traditional form of domestic violence. And that's something that maybe an events like this might maybe empower some of those victims or some maybe friends of victims that can help maybe kind of guide them to figuring out a way out of their situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Physical violence is something that's very dangerous, and a lot of times the person that is in that relationship could feel trapped or feel hopeless and feel like there's no way to get out of it. But the reality is there are resources that can help.
And these events, let's get into the events that kind of help spread this message and tell students about the stories and the effect that it can have on the individual. So let's run down some of the events that you have going on.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing a 3-day campaign in October. October 7th, which is a Monday, we'll be doing the Clothesline Project. And the Clothesline Project is a representation just kind of for any sort of interpersonal violence, specifically for sexual assault victims. Originally, the t-shirts of survivors were hung. We have several organizations that are creating t-shirts so that they can be hung up as support as well as statistics of the reality of sexual assault and interpersonal violence. Alongside of that, we're going to have resources and things like that. On the 8th, we will be doing These Hands Don't Hurt, which has to do with domestic violence. And essentially, you paint your hand, put it on the paper, sign your name, and pledge to stand against domestic violence. And also, during that time, we will give more information of what domestic violence can look like, because again, a lot of the stereotypes is just a husband and a wife. And then Wednesday, we will be doing a screening that night of The Hunting Ground, which is a sexual assault documentary about sexual assault on college campuses in Title IX. So. All
right, and all of these, especially those 2, are well known on campus. They've been going on for years, and it's physical representations of what you talk about the Clothesline Project. You're hanging up T-shirts, but it shows facts and figures, and it's something that a student can be able to walk right up and see and identify.
Absolutely, and for those who aren't aware of the realities of domestic violence and sexual assault, it kind of brings awareness and understanding to it, whereas if you are a survivor of these things, it shows support for the university. We're using the hashtag for the month of October of hashtag Trojan Support Survivors, actually.
And speaking of support, that's the second event there is a perfect display of support. And once again, another popular event is physically putting your hand in paint, putting on a wall, and signing this pledge. And I would think for anybody who's either a victim or someone who needs some information, seeing that kind of display, once again, an empowering message to those out there who need to know and need the help with domestic violence.
Absolutely, and alongside of that, domestic violence, because of the stigma around it and the stereotypes, a lot of times people don't realize that maybe subtle things they're doing are actually manipulation and patterns that can be developed into a domestic violent relationship.
But that's one of those things. all of this is to help bring and raise awareness to that, because once again, as we've said, we mentioned multiple times, some people just don't know what they're involved with could be domestic violence. So good opportunity for students to take advantage of this. Now, if they want to learn about what's going on at any time with Trojan Outreach, because you're always doing things here on campus, on social media, they can follow some of y'all's activities as well, right? So
yeah, absolutely. They can go to our social media. On Facebook, we're Troy University Trojan Outreach, and we're Trojan_Outreach on Instagram, and we'll have updates on the events as well as just more information of where you can find us. We'll be on the quad for the event on the 7th and 8th from 10 to 2.
Okay.
And then on the 9th is the screening of the hunting ground. It'll be at 6 p.m. in Hawkins.
All right. Well, here's hoping students take advantage of these opportunities to help spread the word about domestic violence on campus. I want to thank you for joining me here today.
No problem. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on today's edition of Trojan Talk.